I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around with another man's wife. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Threw my boss out the window and got fired from my last job. Hot-wired a city truck and turned it over in the mayor's yard. Beat my brother-in-law half to death. Lost $20 on his football bet. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Good old boys, we're all the same.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. Ash, Brent, Commander Cody back in.
Cody says we're good to go.
We're good to go. Welcome, everybody.
If he says we're good to go, then we're good to go.
We're good to go then.
Okay.
All right.
I don't like it not good to go.
Good morning on the first day of winter 2025. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show.
Is today the first day of winter, like the official
No,
day?
that was in December, but
Oh.
it's the first day that feels like winter. Oh, terrible hair day as well. I should have put a toque on.
So, okay, you were outside this morning just a few minutes ago.
Yep.
It says here, the Wade and Carter weather brought to you by, of course, the great folks at AT Denim Feed. It says it's 33 degrees in Victoria, heading to a high today of 50. I'm good with that. It was 31 in my car. It says it feels like 16. No, it doesn't.
I don't know.
I've been in 16. It doesn't feel like 16.
I agree.
Why do they do that? Why have we as a society gotten to where we talk about the way things feel instead of the way things are?
Well, because I think there is some potential for
Wind chill.
hypothermia and that sort of stuff.
Yep. You've heard it here before. If you're old, fat, or sick, stay indoors today and try to get some heat.
But I will tell you this. It leads me into one of my points for this morning, because if you looked at all the headlines yesterday and all the usual suspects,
right,
70% of the country could face potentially heavy snowfall and winter weather.
Or nothing may happen at all.
Could or potential, but they word it in such a way. You have to get into the story, because the headlines weren't that. The headlines were, America braces for winter storm.
Yeah, it's a joke.
And then you read the headline, and then you read into the story a couple of paragraphs. Well, things are setting up that we could see some pretty bad snow. Oh, but you know what? No worse than we saw 10 years ago. Okay, so this isn't the worst snow the parts of this country's ever seen.
Right.
In fact, we're not even a generation away from heavier snowfall that some of these regions saw a decade ago. So the climate alarmists,
it just
doing what they do.
It doesn't pass the smell test. The climate alarmists are just that. They're alarmists. They're not realists.
No, that's what they're doing.
And I love it when they go back. These are the hottest temperatures in the last 4,000 years. They have no idea. They have no idea.
Next, they'll tell us that all the dinosaurs died because they all had extreme fevers.
Because they smoked filterless cigarettes. Yeah. That's why the dinosaurs died. And I do love, I love it. I do. You got to admit, like, we've gotten so Jurassic Park, okay? I love the way that they show you the T-Rex making those noises and things that they make. They have no idea. Have you ever heard a lizard make a noise?
Nope.
I haven't.
Squish when I step on one outside.
That's it. You got to watch. And they ascribe personality traits to him, and he's very aggressive. Well, when they've got teeth that big, you got to figure there was a chance they were aggressive.
And they were sharp.
Yeah, but the idea that they growl and grunt and that they think, if they were so smart, they might still be here.
Amanda King first went in. Kendra Douglas, Scott Tomko on the podium this morning.
Good. Just so faithful.
Daniel Wade White, Ricky King, Arena Sherry.
Hi, Arena.
Console 12.
Don't know what that is.
I don't either, but welcome to the show.
Ground control
on YouTube.
To Major Tom. Good morning on YouTube. Thank you for checking in.
Lisa Poole, Will Vincent, Mark Kurtz, Crystal Mapp, Marvin Mickish, Justin Glass, Bobby Leister, Randy Langston,
Mark Zapata,
Greg Garcia, Sherry Jacobs, Judge Posey, good morning, Wendy Hughes Garcia, BJ Nelson, Linda Christ, Junior Samples, Tammy Keeling, Scott Snow, Lisa Poole, Sarah Elkins, Stephanie Connie, Randy Langston says, like standing in a ditch saying it's flooding.
Right.
Sums it up perfectly. Heather Kraft Stewart, good morning.
There's
Diane
Mom.
Tippett
Good morning,
checking
Mom.
in. Mom's checking in. Good crowd this morning.
Well, January 6th. You know what that means?
Day
to
that'll
me,
live
right?
in for me. Yep.
Yeah, it's Kylie's birthday.
There you go.
My golden doodle. Today's her third birthday. That's what January 6th means to me.
There's Amanda Blosky checking in.
Attack on democracy. The insurrection. What a guess.
Brad Mitchell, good morning. Yeah. Representative Cloud's going to join us bottom of the hour. Looking forward to that conversation. We'll talk about Speaker Johnson, so we'll save all of that for him.
At least we ain't Canada.
No, at least we have a president and a leader.
Well, do we right now at this moment?
Not really. Apparently we haven't had one for 4 years. At least
That's
the one that they
crazy,
thought they
Tim.
elected. Yeah.
I want you to think about it's a tribute to the resiliency of Americans. Overall, we've done pretty good considering that we haven't had a president or a vice president for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
It could have been worse.
And it's only going to get worse. President Biden announcing his Medal of Freedom winners.
Was that Hillary Clinton? How do you give Hillary Clinton? Was it based on her leadership as Secretary of State? Was it her yeoman's work in Benghazi? Was it her assassination of Vince Foster at all?
Listen to what the Presidential Medal of Freedom is for. It's the highest civilian honor presented to individuals who have made exemplary contributions to the prosperity, values, or security of the United States, world peace, or other significant societal, public, or private endeavors. So I'm not going to go through the whole list. Bono won one from U2. I'd like to know what he's done for besides raising his value. And but I mean, I take it for what it's worth. I like U2, so I'm not going to complain.
There you
too
go.
much.
Ash Carter was the Secretary of Defense. Hillary Rodham Clinton, Secretary Clinton made history many times over decades in public service, like the Benghazi incident, including as the first lady elected to the United States Senate. After serving as Secretary of State, she became the first woman nominated for president by a major United States political party. That is not meritorious. That just shows that a bunch of fools got in a room and decided that she was the one they would run. Hillary Rodham Clinton winning the National Medal of Freedom.
Presidential Medal of Freedom.
That undermines followed on the heels of Michael J. Fox.
I'll give it to Michael J. Fox for what he's done to raise awareness for Parkinson's.
Yep. That's exactly right.
But Hillary Clinton and George Soros got one as well.
How can George Soros, who half the country wants deported, get the National Medal of Freedom?
You've just basically given it to two people who have done the most in recent history to undermine elections in this country. That's what you've done.
And then David Rubenstein must be a huge Democratic donor because he's the co-founder and co-chairman of the Carlyle Group, where he built one of the most successful global investment firms.
Yeah.
And then the other guy, I have no problem with anything you want to give to Denzel. I like Denzel Washington. Is on my list of people, like if I had to watch a movie and I hadn't seen it, I would go, just give me the Denzel film. It'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
Some of those guys get to the point in their career where they only take roles that interest them, and that makes him good. Bill Nye, the Science Guy, very interesting. You know, he's a huge LGBTQ rights activist and also a pro-mask vaxxer. Very interesting that he would get such an award when he's not really much of a science guy.
Well, he was, though, and I'll give him credit for probably keeping the U.S. as relevant on the world stage in science.
Really? Bill Nye?
He got a lot of kids interested in science that probably wouldn't have otherwise. When you went home,
Mr. Rogers of science.
Kind of, yep.
Yeah.
When you went home and turned it on PBS and he was on, that was basically all you had.
Won't you touch my beaker?
Ralph Lauren?
Well, of course, you've got to be well dressed.
Yeah.
Robert Francis Kennedy.
Not RFK Jr., RFK himself.
Is this Robert F. Kennedy?
Yeah.
Let me read you the description of John F. Kennedy's brother, Robert F. Kennedy. Robert Francis Kennedy is remembered as an attorney general who fiercely combated racial segregation and as a U.S. senator who sought to address poverty and inequality in the country. His legacy continues to inspire those committed to justice, equality, and public service. Kind of a generic.
It gets tough. How can you put killed by the CIA under the guise of Saran?
And you know what? I mean, I know that I lean towards some conspiracies because they're very, very realistic. What do you do with the fact that I believe, I always called him Sirhan, does not,
That's what I meant.
Does not recall. He truly didn't. I remember at the time, my dad being a little bit concerned that the guy was adamant that he had no recollection of killing Bobby Kennedy. And knowing what we know now, I'm trying to remember the book that I recommended to you about the military industrial complex, about the military study of the use of LSD to, number one, allow people to do things in service that then would not give them PTSD and all that. They would not remember doing these things. Very interesting that he, in theory, in realistic theory, as a guy who has adamantly forever said, I've got no recollection of being there. I had no beef with Bobby Kennedy. I had no desire to see him dead. The guy walked into I guess dressed as a waiter.
At the Ambassador Hotel, right?
And shot Bobby Kennedy dead.
In the kitchen?
In like 68. Yeah.
Whatever it was, yeah.
And very interesting that the studies were being done at the same time. I think the book is called Chaos, CHAOS. And it's crazy as it sounds, it all ties back into Charles Manson and some of the stuff that was going on the West Coast and the idea that LSD was being used as a military experiment. Very interesting that this guy goes in, kills the president. This LSD study at the time was nowhere near public information, not even mumbled about in public. And that was his excuse 56 years ago, that's what happened. It was like, I've got no idea. I don't remember killing him. And now we find out that at the same time, the military was experimenting with LSD to take away people's memories. Huh. What does that make you wonder?
Junior says RFK went after the mob, but we can't figure out why he's dead.
Yeah, but Sirhan had no connection to the mob. No connection to the mob. No. Very random deal. There's Matt Boucher. Good morning, buddy.
They weren't using Muslims back then. Now they're using them because they're all tied together.
They are all tied together. Very interesting. We have domestic terrorism on the increase in the United States of America. And it's not because of Donald Trump, and it's not because of Joe Biden. It's because of overreaching religious nut jobs who now happen to be Americans. American military soldier decides to drive through a group of people because religion trumps culture and
morals and values.
Values, and country in the Islamic faith. I mean, it's call it what it is. If you're Islamic, if you're Muslim, that's more important than being American. And as it should be, right? I mean, being Christian should be more important than being American, but I don't have any religious leaders on the Christian side telling me to go kill a bunch of people with a vehicle.
Not anymore.
No, that was just the Catholics. So back in the 1400s, that's a whole different thing.
Jared McCrugan checking in. James Kurth, good morning. Matt Boucher, Randy Langston says Mr. Wizard was cooler than Bill Nye. I don't remember
Farmer
Mr.
Green
Wizard,
Jeans was cooler than either one.
but terrible list of. I mean, I shouldn't say terrible. Some of them were well deserved, but I mean, it cheapens the award when.
Well, you don't have to give away 15 of them every.
Well, and Soros, come on, that right there ruins the whole lot. But
yeah.
Hillary Clinton, really, come on, Presidential Medal of Freedom. This is a woman who has done everything in her career to undermine freedom in this country. Absolutely terrible,
terrible woman.
And we don't have time today to get into this. Maybe tomorrow, because we're expecting Congressman Cloud to join us at the bottom of the hour and get into a lot of the stuff that went on and is going to go on in D.C. Thankful he's joining us this morning before he's got to get into the House and certify the election.
Mike Jones.
Yeah, well.
There's John Paul checking in.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting what's coming out of what happened in Vegas in front of the Trump hotel.
Yeah, there's a guy that does a podcast named Sean Ryan, and I mentioned his name because he's got some credibility. The guy's been around. He's legit. And it's interesting that he had an interview with, confirmed through some data that the guy gave him, that he was visiting with the former military or the former soldier that was driving around in the Tesla.
I think he got sent an email from him.
Yeah.
That outlined everything. And he sent this to a bunch of people. It wasn't just Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan's the one that actually went with it first, probably because when it happened, a lot of the others were on vacation.
And it wasn't like his manifesto. He wasn't saying I'm going to blow up anything. Apparently he tells Sean Ryan they've put accelerants in the back of this Tesla. And,
we'll get into it tomorrow.
Yeah, we can get into more details tomorrow, but very, very interesting that the most recent thing I've heard is that when they pulled this guy out of the Tesla in front of Trump Tower, he had a bullet wound in the bottom of his skull and it like he had shot himself in the head or been shot in the head.
I could see that, though. Do you want to burn to death?
Well, I mean, is he the guy that set it on fire?
I don't know. Well, if he's not, you still want to burn to death, and I wouldn't want to. But
the story that was told to me was that he was maybe driven there with a self-driving Tesla, and he just happened to be the
guy
guy
under LSD and couldn't do anything about it.
Like right, he's just high as a kite.
Yeah. You know what's interesting?
Listening to Elton John's cover of "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds."
You know what's interesting with that though too is some of the reports, and they may not be substantiated. They're probably unsubstantiated this time or semi-substantiated. I don't know, but that apparently, a lot of things in that vehicle were burned beyond recognition except for the paper.
Interesting.
ID papers, passports, things like that.
I saw the vehicle ablaze, and it looked like anything in it would be gone.
So,
wait, what did Ricky King said? I would like y'all to ask Congressman Cloud why he voted against Mike Johnson.
Oh, it's on the list of things to ask him.
And have Donald Trump call him and talk to him. He just wanted to talk to DJ
Maybe
T.
So.
That's all.
Maybe that was it.
Let's take a quick break.
Let's take a quick break because we got lots to get to before we get
Folks,
to
Wind Services, Wind for all your electrical needs. Reach out to Wind Services. Let them know. I don't need it.
Okay.
You need it?
No.
Wind Services can help you, whether you need a new plug or whether you need a whole new building redone. If you need a whole new building, you call RK Development Group. Let Daniel Rowlands and his team give you their 35 years of experience and come out and build you a barn dominium, add on, bricks and sticks. You get it. They're contractors.
You do.
And they're good at it. The VCS companies. I saw Kelly Hartman Hinkie just the other day. She said to tell you hi.
I haven't seen her for a little bit.
You need to get back and get the weeds out of her flower bed, she said. The VCS companies for all your communication needs. We communicate here powered by the VCS companies. They've done a great job for us, with us, partners with us.
Since the beginning.
For years now. Brand us, a newer partner, but just as important. Let Cody Bauman help you expand your brand.
We didn't need him last week. But.
Well, we needed him. He was doing manly things. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
He did great work last week.
Dollar Floor Store now open in Victoria. Check them out on Navarro for all your flooring needs, hardwood, vinyl, ceramic tile, laminate flooring.
Do you have any idea where they're at on Navarro? Is it kind of like the Brickyard at Indianapolis where you've got that one little section of bricks? There's just some vinyl flooring going across Navarro, and you know that's where they're at?
Yep. Yeah, they're by Harbor Freight. Prices for every budget. And if I'm not mistaken, their prices are very transparent. Like this flooring is $1. This flooring is $2 a square foot. There's none of this $1.99. You can do the math, and they've got it for every budget. And so stop by and see them.
Fantastic.
Today.
White Trash Services, still not too late to give the gift that keeps on giving, a year of trash service. Reach out to White Trash, 550-1826. Let them help you help others.
Yep.
They do a great job. Full stop. Cheswick Furniture. Cheswick and love make your house a home.
They do.
Get by and see why you just always do better at Cheswick. Bobby Leon and his family helping you and yours. I'm sure I will see Bobby at the Republican Gala. That's on the 18th. Be out at Spring Creek. You still have an opportunity to reach out to Bill Posey and the local GOP tickets if you'd like to get a ticket. You were going to say something. I interrupted you with my diatribe.
I about interrupted you before.
That's okay. You can do that. It's Wade and Carter. Wade and Carter. I mean, I get it. It could be Wade. It was Friday. Wade and Junior. Oh, Junior didn't show?
No. I don't think Junior was supposed to show.
Oh, you didn't call him. You just did it by yourself?
Did it by myself.
I didn't listen. How did it go?
Went well.
What'd you talk about?
Lots of stuff.
I'm sure you did. Did you have fun? Did you just come up and play radio?
I did, yeah.
I can just see you. It's mine. It's mine. It's all mine. The Empire.
Well, you know.
He stood in the middle with both microphones. Do you hear an echo, people?
Then I moved over for the Brother Man.
Wow.
Brother Man came and joined
Folks,
me.
I apologize. Let me just apologize on behalf of all of you that chose not to listen. I just
practicing for the day you're not here.
The big jammer. When I have the big jammer. Oh, goodness gracious.
Or February 1st when your body can't handle not having alcohol for
right.
a month.
It's just when I spin in. I've got all this energy. I don't know what's... These cans are defective. Your head's going to be defective. You don't get out of there.
Let's talk price checking in. First 8, Bank of Louise, Astros update. Now a lot of talk. Bregman may not be going anywhere.
Well, what do you do with it?
Could sign for one. Could go back and accept the 6 years, $26 million.
I don't, now don't get me wrong. I like Alex Bregman. Think Alex Bregman brings a lot to the team. If you've got the money, that's fine.
Do you platoon at third base?
Well,
and then
you
DH?
got Paredes. Here's my deal. So I'll give you the option. Do you take $26 million a year for 6 and sign Bregman, make him happy? Or do you take half of that and go sign a serviceable outfielder? Right now, I've got McCormick, Myers, Alvarez. They want Alvarez. They've already said they want Alvarez to play DH. They don't want him to play in the outfield.
Dubon could play some outfield?
Can, but he's also a utility infielder, and I don't want him playing every day.
Well, he plays every day anyway.
I don't want him to be my everyday left fielder. Remember he ran into the wall that day and almost missed a month? I'm asking you, for half the money, do you play Paredes at third?
And here's the thing. They signed Altuve, what, 2 years ago now? He's into the third year of his extension, so he's only got 2 years left on it, right? 5-year deal, wasn't it?
Signed last year.
Oh, was
last year was the first year of it.
Okay,
2 all seasons ago.
Okay, I thought it was. Fair enough.
Yes, sir. Pretty sure that last year was the first year of his new dollar amount. What is this?
Just a free agency tracker. I'm just trying to get to their roster here real quick to try to figure out who we're going to play in the outfield.
I mean, that's who we've got. You've got the guy whose dad had it's either his dad or famous Detroit Tiger.
Trammell?
Trammell's on our team. Not. Different family because this Trammell's black. Jake Myers, Chas McCormick. So Pedro Leon is really a AAA player.
There's not a lot of major league depth.
Cooper Hummel from Portland, Oregon. 5'9", 198. Might want to get him on a salad.
Who was the guy we got for the Dodgers last year?
Hayward.
Yeah, he's not there now.
Well, because he's a free agent.
Yeah.
Now
I could played pretty well for us.
I could see re-signing him, but he's also not a big stick.
He did all right for us.
So I'm wondering, do you go get a big time outfielder? Profar, for example. I called for him last year. Early in the year, he didn't do a whole lot, and then later in the season, Profar was a player. Yeah. He hit 211, but he did have 10 homers and 37 RBIs.
Let's see what he did and he's 35 years old. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
Trying to see what he did with the Astros, though. That's he had 4 of those home runs.
And he had
9 RBIs. He only played 24 games for us. 4 home runs, 24 games. That's not bad production.
No, the 218 bothers me, but he did hit the ball. I mean, and tell you what, he's a positive voice in the clubhouse.
And he had some pretty good defense too.
Yes, sir. And he played all out. I'll give him that.
And he's only a year removed from hitting 269. So I mean, can he still get it done? If he hits at a 250 clip.
Yeah.
Which is his career average, you'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I would be.
If he gave you 15 home runs and a hit 250.
Yeah, he's a player.
I'm okay with that.
He's an everyday player.
Yeah. I'd be okay with that.
So you put him in right, which is his natural position, and move McCormick to left, and then let Myers play center. Or vice versa. Put Myers in left.
And then Dubon can platoon and he can play all 3 positions.
Right.
Yeah. Might be the way to do it.
But that's where we're at. We're at a point. The key thing for y'all to know there is we're at a point where the Astros have question marks in the outfield and no depth. Somebody gets hurt. McCormick pulls a hammy. You've got a problem.
And let's not forget, McCormick was not the player last year that he was 2 years ago. But correct. I warned you of this career year 2 years ago. Below average year last year, I think somewhere in the middle is where McCormick.
Correct. And I did some research on Alex Bregman. Again, as much as I like him, as much as I don't want to see him go, as much as when we traded Tucker, I was like, okay, good, we're going to keep McCormick. We're going to keep Bregman. If you take out his just exemplary 2019 season, he's close to the league average in a lot of places for his career. Steady, maybe even great player, but not a franchise player.
Real quickly, the NFL's got to fix their playoff seeding. How does a 14-3 team, Minnesota
a lot if somebody gave us some feedback.
I think we're back.
Is that unbelievable? Though there's Michael Cloud calling. Right. Put him on the
I'll
Bluetooth.
There we go. We never fell out.
Good morning, sir. Wait. Hang on. There you are. I apologize, Congressman. How are you, sir?
Good. Good morning.
I had to connect you to the board. You came in on the phone fine, but
our apologies. Right before you were slated to call in or Zoom in, we lost you. So we lost our computer feed. It just died. So, but we've got you now. So that's good. How are things in DC? Is it chilly?
It is a little chilly. I was looking forward to, but I'll just have to describe. There's all this white stuff all over the place. I'm not sure what that's all about. But
ignore that. It won't hurt you. It's okay. You walk way too fast to ever get bogged down in that.
Yeah, and you're no longer part of the DC crowd that used to apparently partake in that white stuff.
Right. Yeah,
way back when.
Oh,
so you're good.
That's different white stuff.
They call that winter storm a hunter. It's no big deal.
Oh,
it's just a hunter.
Okay.
I mean, because you have people that go and do this for you now, you don't have to do this, but are the store shelves empty? Because I'm hearing reports that all of the store shelves, wherever this winter storm was going, are full of, or have nothing left. The toilet paper's gone. The water's gone. The Vienna sausages are gone. Everything's gone.
I don't know. I don't usually do a lot of shopping up here.
He eats those little crackers, Lance crackers. They come in a 6-pack.
Yeah, that's the.
You know, I mean, I shop back home.
Yeah,
you know, in Texas.
You didn't see there was no panic
up here. I don't know. I don't usually get too far off of Capitol Hill.
Well,
so
there you go.
You're just a bill.
And then I'm just. Yeah. So
as long as the Dr. Pepper stocked, you're good. You'll make it through anything.
Right. I did notice that was missing from the. I went to the lead shop and noticed that our Dr. Pepper fridge was running low, if not empty.
Well, you know, it's hard to get Dr. Pepper from Texas to Washington D.C. when there's ice on the roads these days. So I'm sure it's on its way as soon as things thaw out. How are things otherwise? Big day today, but let's go back to the big day on Friday because you were not one of the ones that originally backed Senator or Speaker Johnson. So let's start there. And why were you not for the speaker originally?
Sure. Well, it's really, and I'll say what I said back when we were talking about Kevin McCarthy 2 years prior, and that is, I'm willing to support any speaker who's going to support a Congress that runs the right way. And so there were a lot of reforms we had worked toward, members getting 72 hours to read the bills, us having a member-driven process, bills not written by what they call the four corners, where members have no input and then, surprise, they're coming to the floor tomorrow and you're supposed to vote on them. All those different kind of things and processes. And, we had seen a retrograde from those hard-earned wins over the course of the last 15 months or so. And the last week of the 118th Congress being the ultimate example of it, where we had a 1,500-page bill come to the floor, that, again, nobody read. You're not going to have time to read this thing, and it was nothing like when we left town 3 days prior and we're told about this streamlined bill that's going to come, that's going to, kind of be a bridge into the Trump administration and take care of our farmers. And, it turned into something completely different when we came back 3 days later. And, so as we look to the next 18 months, we have 18 months basically to save the country. Yeah. And, there were legitimate concerns about, okay, if we have a big challenge at the speakership, is that going to delay certification? Is that going to delay the Trump agenda? All things that I was very concerned about, but I was also concerned about that, hey, if we don't make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to getting the reforms and making sure we're going to find savings and get our country going where it needs to go and rejecting the status quo and the fuzzy math that goes into these sort of bills and all that kind of stuff. If we don't have agreement on where we're going, the Trump agenda is going to fail over the long run as well. And so that important discussion needed to happen.
Did you receive a phone call from the president? Was he encouraging of? I just thought it was interesting, and I made the comment here last week that I thought it was interesting that the president-elect, would have much input into who the House chose to be their speaker. But I guess if he has a comfort level, obviously I welcome his input. I just wondered if did you talk to the president about Speaker Johnson? Did he solicit your support?
I spoke to Speaker Johnson about Speaker Johnson.
Okay, good.
And,
yes, sir.
Literally the day before, probably spent a couple hours with him, whether in phone calls or in meetings, and us talking about what we were expecting. We were wanting to see how we thought Congress should operate. What were some things we could do to make sure that we get there? And I thought it was important to send a message that we're going to be holding leadership accountable to the promises too. And so,
absolutely,
we wanted to keep it all in context. And yes, we're all behind making sure we can quickly enact the America First agenda, but know that we're watching to make sure that actually happens.
Well, that's awesome.
So how did so what changed between holding out and then how did you get the assurances as opposed to reassurances that Speaker Johnson was going to do some of the things that you wanted to do? Did he come back and did they, was there a sort of a memo that went out and said, okay, we're going to do these things?
One of the things, for example, is everybody knows right after we elect a speaker, we vote on the House rules. And, every week the Rules Committee gets together and says, well, we're not going to follow those rules. We're going to follow these rules for this bill. What gets worse than that is they have something called the suspension calendar, where this was supposed to be for things that are non-controversial, namings of federal buildings and the like, or things we all agree with that are nominal kind of things. And it had turned into, well, we'll just put everything on the suspension calendar. Massive spending bills coming through the suspension calendar, even though our conference rules said we're not going to have anything over $100 million. That was broken almost every week. I would constantly go to them every week on the floor going, "You're breaking our rules once again." And sometimes it's actually a decent bill. I remember there being a NASA reauthorization. It's not that we. But let's keep our promises. Let's not break our own rules. Let's do what we said we're going to do. And so one of the things we got was a severe limitation on how the suspension calendar will be used. And that's, by the way, is one of the ways that the government massively grows. I mean, new programs just get thrown on everybody has an idea once. So it's one of the hidden ways that we continue to grow the bureaucracy is through the suspension calendar. Well, I appreciate one of the big ones.
And I'm going to speak on behalf of our listeners and viewers, but I appreciate you bringing this stuff to light because I don't think people understand just the minutia of some of those the process of this. They're just used to Schoolhouse Rock and today I'm a bill.
The cost of minutia. Cost of minutia.
But
can we have a Wade and Carter way station? I mean, I don't expect a federal building or even a post office. Like maybe Hoheim. Maybe they could name the Hoheim post office, which is now closed after Wade and Carter. But I was just thinking, like,
we could just go and change the name on it.
When the sign says all trucks next exit and there's a way station, the Wade and Carter way station.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wade and Carter. We'll have to look and find something appropriate.
Right. Now, careful. I know
some nuclear waste dump.
I'll be up there in the spring, and I know you're going to walk me by some porta toilet out there on the side of there's the Wade and Carter way station.
There it is. Let me ask you: what is 72 hours still? Is that? I mean, if you got a 1,500-page bill, is 72 hours enough to even get through it?
Well, that's a good question, but it was a lot better than what we had been.
Well, true.
You know, and the important thing is if we're doing this right and we're having input on the front end, you kind of aren't shocked by what's in the bill.
Fair
The
enough.
problem is, you know, when you leave town and you're told it's going to be one thing and you come back, you know, you leave on a Friday and come back on a Monday and it's like, what happened to what we were talking about?
Well, we've had that famous comment by Nancy Pelosi, you know, we've got to pass it so we can see what's in it. And I think that really resonated with the American people that's terrible. I can't imagine somebody bringing, you know, legislation into your office on a dolly and then saying we vote in 20 minutes. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things we had gotten to was single subject bills that are germaneness. And even in the discussions in the 118th of Congress, we were in the office and said, okay, these bills that all got thrown together in this one massive bill, we'd like separate votes on it. We thought we had agreement on that. And then 90 minutes later, we're told, okay, no, they're going to be put on the floor on the suspension calendar as one huge bill. So, you know, that was the end of the 118th Congress. So coming into the 119th, if you're like, you want this job again, we're going to have some talks first and make sure that this isn't going to be status quo going forward.
Good for you.
Yeah, Ricky King, who's a truck driver, says he's not going to like us anymore if we actually have a way station named after
True
us.
story,
So we
Ricky.
won't
I
do that.
apologize to the American trucker. The long haul trucker, one of the backbones of this country, but a congressional bathroom would be great.
Yeah. The family restroom would be nice.
Yes, but not the co-ed.
No.
Right.
So do you see, well, a couple of questions. Do you see Speaker Johnson actually doing what he's promised to do this time around? Because, I mean, you know, he seemed to say all the right things after being reelected speaker, that, you know, he was going to stand for spending controls and yada, yada, yada. Do you see him doing that?
I like to think that we have enough accountability around him to force the issue. We had over the weekend kind of a session where we went off campus and began to lay a framework for what this term's going to look like. Those are first right steps. So I'm encouraged by that. You know, there will always be this massive magnet to kind of pull things back to the status quo because there are powers that benefit from that structure. So it's going to be something that we have to constantly keep in mind and constantly remind everybody what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it needs to be done as we move forward. And so it's not one of those things you can ever just check the box and say, wow, I'm glad that's done. But I'm encouraged by the first steps I'm seeing, and will continue to watch and work toward even improving that process.
We've had some conversations here at the state level with different folks, whether it's Brad Buckley or who's the other gentleman that we had on, that guy.
Yeah.
But people that have differing opinions, they're both Republican, they're both, you know, conservative, they're both good folks, but they end up going different directions when it comes time to vote. And I think that we as Monday morning quarterbacks get bogged down and, you know, we don't understand all the nuances of what goes on behind the scenes. And I, for one, I mean, I really appreciate your position there and what you get stuck trying to do, because I'm sure that Mike Johnson is a fine guy. If he wasn't, there wouldn't be enough of you that say, we're going to give you another shot as speaker. But it just seems like he ends up being the poster child for anything that goes wrong, you know, and I don't know if that's fair or not. There may be times that it's good to have somebody that can be a scapegoat if things go wrong. But if you're confident in him, then we're confident in him.
Well, given where we're at, I think it was the option that we needed to go with. You know, we have parameters in place. One of the oddities that some people picked up on is that 9 of us withheld our vote at the beginning. and it takes 9 people to have a motion to vacate. So that's always there. I mean, we don't want to go there. What we want to do is have the best year the American people have seen in generations, and that's what needs to happen. Frankly, that's what has to happen, and so we have to continue to force that issue, and keep focused on what really matters this year.
I just remember you visiting with Speaker Johnson and telling him, "Don't do your best impersonation of Speaker McCarthy. Be Mike Johnson."
Right. And honestly, that's kind of like, I feel like I'm always reminding him to be, remember who you are.
Right. No, that's great advice.
Because as a member, he's known to be a constitutional conservative, heart's in the right place, certainly. But you can sit across the table. These aren't coffee table discussions, I guess, is what I'm saying. There's having agreement on the issues is essentially important too. But one of the things I've given a whole lot more weight to, especially as I've worked here a little longer, is how important courage is in that matter. Because I would rather have somebody I agree with 80% who has the courage to let's work toward that, where we do have agreement, than someone I agree with 100% who is scared of any fight. And
amen.
Is scared of their shadow in a sense,
but
because you end up having a great coffee table discussion, and you can sit there and on paper solve the world's problem or solve our country's problems, but nothing gets done for the American people. So courage is essential.
As you look back, though, Congressman, as you look back, haven't you evolved into that role to a degree? I mean, do you look back and, courage is also in some forms a function of familiarity, right? I mean, you're confident now you've got a track record, and you're confident that you can make a bold statement and it's not going to be the end of the world. Whereas when you first get there, maybe you're a little bit more inclined to kind of go along to get along, try to get to understand, get your feet on the ground. And now I agree with you 100%. It's better to be right 80% of the time, decisive, confident, aggressive, than it is to be right 100% of the time and just sit on the sidelines. So do you feel like you've evolved as a leader in that regard to where, because I do know that these guys, a lot of them look to you as a compass of, shame to put the pressure on you, but they look at you as a compass of morality, and they look at you as a compass of constitutionality. How do you feel that you've evolved as a leader since you've been in DC?
I think the key term of your question there is as a leader, maybe. I think if you look at my voting record over the course of time, I've been pretty consistent on those principles. But I remember people would ask when I got here, they'd be like, "So how's everybody treating you in DC?" And I'd be like, "Well, they treat you fine. The question is why."
Amen. Amen.
And so recognizing that not everything is what it seems to be up here, it takes a little bit to kind of figure out what's real, what's not. And then, in a very pragmatic sense, a lot of the corruption is under layers and layers and ineptitude and all these different kind of things is buried under these layers of bureaucracy and whatever. So it takes a little bit to kind of unpeel that onion to figure out where the actual pinch points are, and where you can make change and not just create bluster, so to speak.
Ash, can you imagine being one of Congressman Cloud's kids and like trying to lobby for like an increase in your allowance or something? And he's like, "I need to review the referendum. There's too many pages here."
Yeah, you didn't give me 72 hours.
I need 72 hours to digest this, and then I'll come back with a heartfelt no.
Dad, it's one sentence.
No, you can't have it.
Let me ask you.
To that point, well, go ahead.
No, go ahead. To that point.
My kids and I were playing Catan over the weekend, and it's kind of a strategy game that also involves a lot of wheeling and dealing and leverage points and those kind of things. I happened to win that round. I haven't won every round.
Did you take Greenland?
But while we were playing, I was thinking, about the leverage points. And there was one point I was trying to make a trade with one of my sons, and I just didn't say anything for a second, and then he offered me more, and I was about to accept the first deal, but I was like, I'll take the second deal. And then, so it became a learning example.
Don't negotiate against yourself, kid.
Jonathan
Williams.
Yeah, don't negotiate against yourself.
Jonathan Williams says
important negotiating lessons.
Jonathan Williams says Speaker Cloud has a nice ring to it.
Well, if you can convince 218 other members,
right.
I'm not sure.
If elected, I'm willing to serve.
Yeah. How much of a threat was it that Hakeem Jeffries could have ended up being the speaker if things would have dragged on?
No, it's not. And when and we get people read that on Twitter and all those different kind of things they did last time too, and a lot of this place is run by fear, and that's how they keep everybody in check. And so whether it's a debt ceiling fight that's coming up or the funding deadline or anything else, it's always whatever the chicken little story is for that particular issue. Worst case scenario, why we can't accomplish something great is because we have to settle for what is because of
what might be.
What might be. And so it's a false argument. I mean, we've done the math. We know what's going on. I mean, I knew how the vote was going to go. I knew where the numbers were heading into the vote. And, so do our homework. And I mean, you've got to, in order to enact change, you have to have some risk. There's people who want to fight a battle when they know the outcome. Well, that's not a fight. A battle. That's not a fight. That's even every sport, every game, every something has risk, and so you make the best strategic, wise decision you can. But we weren't going to do anything that was going to hand over the republic.
As more than casual observers, Ash and I have kind of grown accustomed to the style with which President Trump gets his message across. We chuckled lightly when he talked about maybe Greenland would be a nice place for the United States just to kind of take over. Because, within 3 days, Denmark said, oh, by the way, we're thinking about kicking in a few more bucks to NATO.
Yeah.
That was pure, strategy on his part. I thought it was interesting the other day, the president mentioned he may just want to take the U.S. out of NATO altogether. I think he got tired of picking on individual countries and just decided to take Western Europe and say, all of y'all need to send more money. And, I mean, obviously, we're not going to pull out of NATO. So what is the end game there? Is he just trying to get folks to pony up? Is that the end of the game?
I don't know. He likes to go big and bold, and
I know you don't. I know you can't make yourself think like
I'm sure it would be a great strategic. Now, but what you're saying is so true. He knows how to create leverage. He knows how to get his point across and to remind people where they are. And in the case of NATO, we still have countries that haven't paid back war debt to us from World War II, and then we've continued to pay for their security. And when Trudeau's meeting with President Trump, which it looks like that's going to go a different direction now, and basically saying the Canadian economy can't survive if we don't continue to send them money, it's like, well, thank you for letting us know we have that strong leverage position.
Right. Yeah. We mentioned tariffs, and your prime minister resigns. It's interesting. Yeah.
Right. So, these nations, instead of, just taking advantage of the American people, can certainly do more to step up and help make this a better.
Hakeem Jeffries' speech on Friday was kind of interesting, and he talked about I don't know if it was ad-libbed or not, but
he likes to talk.
That there were no election deniers on this side of the floor, and then you kind of had to remind him that you were one of them that questioned the validity of the 2020 election. But I mean, was that really a place for him to kind of go off the way he did as minority leader, or was he out of line a little bit, or does that typically what'll happen at that point in time?
Yes. Yeah. And this is where you see them take every advantage they can. And this is something where Republicans have to get stronger at, is realizing, when they're in charge, bipartisanship's out the window. Suddenly when they're not, it's, hey, we need to make sure we're fostering a world of bipartisanship and all these different kind of.
Yes, we need Republicans to be more petty and less cooperative. Yeah,
but let's remember that Biden just gave a Medal of Freedom to an election denier. So, they they had issues with Bush Gore. I remember, we had Amy Mundy was one of the presidential electors, and I remember being in Austin when the electors met to vote on Trump. And at the time, they were trying to get the electors to flip, save the republic. We can't let this man in office, even though he won the election, we have to, flip some electors. So anyway, but they're not principled and consistent in these sorts of things. And so
Ricky King has a question for you. If a bill came up that would not tax overtime and not tax veterans, would you vote for that bill?
Those are some of the things that are being discussed in it. There's a couple principles here. I mean, there's the equal protection in the sense, like, the government shouldn't be sitting here and picking our favorite people, in a sense. But in the same vein, I'm also in the camp of, I don't think we should have an federal income tax. I don't think the government has a right to know how much money you make. So I would look to different ways to fund our federal government. And so if we can make steps toward that, and sometimes that's what would happen, like, for example, no tax on tips. Well, okay, if we can get another group, maybe we can get there. So those are the kind of things we'll be weighing as we look at the reconciliation package that's coming up. It's going to be the totality of it all, but that's kind of the issues I'm weighing as I approach that.
Great listener, Peter McNally asks, he says, ask Michael if he ever socializes with any Democrats after work. Have you, made
lowered yourself to that standard?
Yeah, no, do you have, obviously you're a friendly guy and I know you would talk to anybody, but I mean, do you have any, is that taboo? Do you have, I can't.
First of all, I don't socialize with very many people.
Right. I knew you.
No, I mean, like, I don't mean to, like, but, I'm usually working to midnight. After we're done voting for the day, I'm reading, I'm doing something.
I knew that was the right answer.
Knocking at a to-do list, something like that.
Does he talk to Democrats after
I've never
work?
gone to dinner with a couple people.
Yeah,
I'm always working.
Yeah, this ain't the red coats and the blue coats, though.
Right.
You got to work with these folks.
It's not that I'm antisocial or anything. It's just
I'm busy.
Yeah. So what's going on today?
Today we have the certification of President Trump, and so here in a couple hours we'll head to the floor. I expect it'll go smoothly. It'll be interesting to see how the weather plays out. Most of the Republicans have been here all weekend because we were here to elect a speaker on the 3rd, and then we had kind of a strategy session all day on Saturday, and then we knew by then the storm was coming. So.
And of course, the Democrats and their cloud seeding and their chemtrails, they steered this weather to DC so they couldn't get back,
right,
in case they needed to. So describe this process real quickly. We're almost out of time, but what happens today? What's the process so people can understand it?
Well, it's usually pretty simple. So we'll go down there and they'll bring up the states, and if there's not an objection, it can move pretty quickly. It can be done in an hour or so, and that's kind of what we expect. We'll see. There's been many times in the past too, although the media doesn't cover it, that Dems have objected or had an objector and given speeches and those kind of things. I'm sure there'll be some speechifying going on.
Has your intel given you any indications that there might be some objections and where they might be coming from?
I don't know. I'm actually curious to see how many Dems show up. I'm sure they'll have some, but with everything, like flights into DCA right now are canceled. So
Okay.
if you weren't staying here over the weekend, you're having a hard time getting into town this morning.
And how many votes are needed to certify the election?
Well, there's only really a vote if there's an objection.
Okay.
So.
Well, we hope it goes smooth, and as always, sir, we appreciate your time and your candidness and your hard work for this district. Anything we can do for you down here?
Well, just keep doing what you're doing. Of course, to remind everybody, you can sign up for our newsletter if you want. cloud.house.gov, and let us know how we're doing, what we can do, and provide feedback. And
well, your newsletter is very informative, and it oftentimes summarizes where we're at in this conversation with there's video, there's footage of hearings that the congressman participates in, and they're always very enlightening. Sir, we always appreciate your time, and you're always in our prayers. So hang in there, and if we can do anything for you, you call us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir. Congressman Michael Cloud, and I hope you survive the winter of 2025 in Washington, D.C. Appreciate it.
That was Congressman Cloud. Just great to have him on.
Yeah.
Don't ever take that for granted, folks. There's a lot of communities. There's a lot of communities that can't just ring up their congressman and get him on the phone for a casual conversation.
And I appreciate his ability to pivot, because we actually were going to bring him on live via video, and then our computer shut down right at that point. Yep. So appreciate him dialing in.
I mean, chances are good. His hair was combed.
I'm sure it was, unlike mine today.
Yeah, you look fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Folks, we love you guys. I hope you have a great day. It is Monday. It is time to get your 25 action going. Let's go. Let's do it. Go be a winner.
Bye, folks.
Bye, folks.
I've been kicked